Hi, I'm Amber and today we're here for Deep Discovery 2016. This is my colleague Adrian and today we are here in Plymouth Sound and it's absolutely gorgeous weather, so we're very lucky to be filming outside. Today we're going to be looking at some of the amazing underwater animals that are living in and around our coasts very close to you. A lot of these animals we find all across Devon and Cornwall and all over the UK. We're a group of scientists from all over the country. We've got myself, I'm from the Natural History Museum in London, so's Adrian. You're going to meet Helena, she's from there as well. We've got someone from the universities of Leeds, Southampton and also here in Plymouth. So we're really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Oh, this is absolutely fantastic. So I'm Adrian, I'm a marine biologist. I study animals that live in the ocean and I'm extremely excited because I'm standing on an oceanographic research boat. Oceanographic's a really long word, but we're people that study the ocean and we're particularly excited about the animals that live there under the ocean waves. And what we are standing on is a boat that actually has a really special capability, the techniques and the methods to actually collect animals from the seafloor and see the seafloor. And in just a few moments, Amber and I are going to take you inside and show you some of that. One of the things that we wanted to point out was that I think Amber's have supplied you with an email address so you can email in your questions, and we'll try and do that on the fly as we do the broadcast. So this is like a fantastic opportunity to take you on a tour of how we do marine biology here in Plymouth Sound on this absolutely stunning and beautiful day. So what we thought we might start with would be taking you inside to show you how we control our remotely operated vehicle. Now that's again a really long word. It's actually a mini robot submersible. And it's a really important member of the team. It's called REX, and I think hopefully some of you have found all of the archive of videos on YouTube of Rex's adventures under the ocean. So we're going to be going in now and having a look at some of the footage that we shot yesterday, just around here in Plymouth Sound, and a little way out to sea, just at a place called the Plymouth Drop-Off. It's a really deep site down to 40 or 50 metres water depth. So should we go inside and carry on?
Just want to say quickly, I know that a few of you were tuning in yesterday and you emailed us to say you had a great time. So we put together some footage of the dive we did just after you guys tuned out. We put Rex down and looked at some reefs. So although you're going to be experts on what we're about to tell you about Rex, you're going to see some brand new footage that he's filmed yesterday. So hopefully you can bear with us for a couple of minutes and then you're going to see some really awesome sea creatures. So yeah, should we go inside?
Yeah, let's go inside. So boats like Callista have an outside deck where we can operate machinery and put equipment, complicated things, expensive things over the side into the ocean. But actually it also has, this is a very nice boat. It has a lab here and then another lab in here, which is my favourite laboratory, which is where we control our underwater vehicle, ROV REX. And I'm actually sitting now at the controls. In front of me is a computer that's connected by a very long cable, a 200-metre tether, to our underwater vehicle, which is a little it's the size of a small suitcase which can drive around on the seafloor, as you're seeing here. This is actually some footage that we shot yesterday just at about 40 metres depth off Plymouth Sound. And I'll probably, if we just go backwards a little bit, I can probably show you a little bit of where we were earlier with various amazing sea creatures driving around there. But what I'll do just here is to take you through some of the controls that we've got, and hopefully you'll be able to see my hands here. We've got a compass which allows us to show us what direction we're headed underwater. We've got some other controls here which allow us to check how many turns we put in the tether. Remember that remotely operated vehicles, mini robot submarines like this, have a long cable running behind them all the way back to the ship, and that allows us to control it and see what we're doing underwater. And we have a little manipulator, little jaws on the front that we can use to pick up samples. And over here we've got a depth indicator showing our depth, and down here I don't know if you can see, Gary, our cameraman, is just going to point out that we've got controls, so I can use this to move forwards and backwards, a little bit like a video game. And in fact remotely operated vehicle pilots who do this, and there are many professional remotely operated vehicle ROV pilots out there, they say that the best training to be an ROV pilot is actually playing a lot of video games, so that does really help figuring out your spatial awareness. Although always you should of course play video games alongside other really important activities, not just video games. So that's quite exciting. I think one other thing over here we've got, maybe just to show you here, is a navigation system. And underwater it's really hard sometimes to know exactly where you are. There's no road, there's no signs to anywhere. Often there's big expanses of mud and boulders and seafloor. So we have a picture of the ship and little dots where the remotely operated vehicle is when we're diving. As well as up here, it's not operating right now because we're powered down. We're just doing some maintenance on Rex at the moment. But we have a sonar system which allows us to see underwater using sound waves. Very, very cool. So that's well, hopefully some people are going to be sending in some questions. So those of you who are watching, don't forget to pump those questions in. Paul, who's helping here with the Callisto crew, is going to run down and hand us those questions. There might be a hand will appear magically with a list of questions. So what have we got here, Amber?
Well, this is actually really interesting. So this isn't the best footage we've got, but I've put this on here because I wanted to show you how blue everything looks. And this is actually Rex when he had his lights turned off. So you can see everything is very blue. And the first thing that disappears when you go down this deep is the red light, because it's really difficult for it to get down there. So everything looks green and very blue like this. But actually there's lots and lots of different colours that you're going to see. So here we've got some fish swimming around in the normal light as well. These are called gold cinni.
What's our depth here?
Oh, our depth here is about 40, this is 20 metres here. Yeah. And later on you're going to see some stuff from about 40 metres as well. So these are gold cinni that you just saw, so the little spot. And this is an amazing one. So if you look in your species guides now, I think you'll find this guy. He is a big edible sea urchin. And you can see all the beautiful red colours as we're going past him. And then as we get further away, you're going to notice that the red starts to disappear, and that's because Rex's lights aren't on him anymore, and he goes that blue kind of green colour. There's a lot of species you're going to see that are in your species guide here, so make sure you've got them in front of you and let us know how many points you get. So as you can see here, all these beautiful colours when Rex lands. The big orange part is a big sea sponge, and in the bottom right hand corner every so often you're going to see one of the big sea cucumbers as well, and he's quite ugly. This is a sea sponge as well, very zoomed in. So Rex has very high definition cameras on him, so he can zoom in like this and get beautiful pictures. This was a very exciting one yesterday, wasn't it, Adrian?
Oh, this is fabulous, yeah.
We found out that there was a conger eel hiding
I should use
just
my
in the rock.
advanced pointing device just to show you. There he is. Oh, there. Ah, he's fabulous. Yep, and his little. You can see his little teeth in a minute, maybe.
Yeah, so he started just sitting there. He didn't seem to mind us at all, and he just sat there, opening and closing his mouth. He's very chilled. Life's very lazy in the deep sea, you see. Now, these are also on your species guide. These are called red fingers. So you can see when you get closer, that red light starts coming in from Rex's lights. And all the little fluffy bits are called polyps. And they've got tentacles, and this is what they use to take food into their mouth. And can you see all the pieces of particles just floating around in the water? That's what they'll catch with their tentacles, and that's how they eat. So these are absolutely beautiful. And these are a type of coral, but they're a soft coral, so different to some of the ones that you might see when you are diving if you're on holiday, and a lot of those are hard corals, but these are very soft if you touch them. And we've got lots of sponges here as well. But you can see in the distance, it's really dark, and that's where the really deep water starts. And so we couldn't go down there with Rex. It was a bit far.
So Amber, we've actually got a question that's popped in on the YouTube channel, which is actually another way that people can send questions in. And that's from Lyndon, I believe. And do sea cucumbers have gender? How do they reproduce?
Oh, I think you should answer that one, Adrian.
Yeah, well, they do. And they most of them.
Here's one now.
Wow, that's great timing. Yeah, most of them reproduce sexually, and yeah, that's a good question. So they I think quite a range of different reproductive types as well. A lot of these deep sea invertebrates, these animals without a backbone, exhibit a whole range of different reproductive strategies. They might be able to reproduce asexually without two sexes, or sometimes with two separate sexes. So that's a really good question that just came in there.
I know there are some sea cucumbers as well down in the deep sea that is quite romantic actually. They'll be together for life, because it's so difficult to find a partner in the deep sea because it's dark, you can't see them. You have to almost feel the water around you to kind of smell and sense where they are, and so quite often they'll mate for life, and you can see the tracks that they leave in the sand, and you'll see them going together forever. It's very lovely.
So one of the things that's really, really exciting about this footage that Amber was just showing you is that this really beautiful, rich, area full of all these marine species is just a few miles off our coast. We were there, it took about 15 or 20 minutes to get there by boat, just the other side of the Plymouth breakwater in this southwest coast area, which is a biodiversity hotspot. Biodiversity is a really long word. It just means how many different types of animals there are living in a place, how many different types of species there are in one area. And this area of the southwest of the UK is really special for that, really fantastic. So where next? Where should we go on our tour?
We've just had another question come in on YouTube from Thomas, who has asked if this is a compilation of lots of different dives or if it's just one Rex dive. It is actually just the one dive we did yesterday, and we had an absolutely amazing time, didn't we? We saw all sorts. I mean, you can see here at the moment we've got another thing that's on your species guide called Dead Man's Fingers. It's a bit morbid.
I put my finger next to it as a scale.
It's because
I'm
when
not
they
actually
grow,
a dead.
often they look like dead man's fingers. And when it comes into focus in a minute, so you can see Rex is struggling with his little HD camera at the moment, but you'll see all of the tiny tentacles. And if you count them, that's how you tell what kind of coral it is. So on this one, you're going to count 8 tentacles. Which means it's an octocoral, and it's an octocoral and a soft coral. So that's that's maybe a bit of lovely biology for you there. Fabulous. To learn about how to identify a coral. So you count its tentacles, and that's how you know what it is. So that's all the footage from yesterday that we're going to show you. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to head outside, and we're going to see if we've had any questions in from anyone. So we're just going to pick up the questions.
So we're going to move back now from the ROV lab to show you what happens outside once we have found things with Rex. What do we want to do? We want to collect samples from down there. It's really, really important that as scientists we're able to bring up animals and samples of sediment and mud and rocks and other things on the seabed to study them with our own eyes, get our hands on them, and most importantly, we'll identify them. Sometimes it's really important to actually get some samples that are bigger than Rex, our robot submarine, can handle. Here's an example of one of those now. So I don't think you're able to see all of this, but so yeah, Gary's going to show. So this is a grab sampler, really, really simple but effective device for taking samples from the seafloor. It's essentially lowered on a wire off the back of the ship. We're right, the ocean's right down there, 20 meters down. We could take grab samples right now if we wanted, and collect samples from the seabed. And it lands on the seafloor, and these little pincers come up and grab the mud. This is always a really, really exciting time for marine biologists. It's the moment when the samples come on deck. It's usually the moment all the crew run away, and all the marine biologists and scientists all come diving in from the lab to see what we've caught. And one of the things that you'll find when you start doing marine biology, you start getting involved, is a lot of the seafloor is muddy. There's lots and lots of mud down there, as Amber and I found out many times working on the back deck. And to process that mud, we have to use these. What have you got here, Amber?
So these are our massive sieving platforms. I mean, they're actually bigger than my head, so they're huge. And basically, you have them in lots of different sizes. So you can see here, that has big holes. I mean, I can fit my fingers through it. But this one here has very small holes. And this is so that we can sort out, when we put the mud in, all the different animals of all different sizes. And we have names for those. You have megafauna, macrofauna, and myofauna as well. And that's what goes on all these different sieves. And then we take those samples inside. But before we show you what's going on inside, we are just going to do an illustration. So Adrian did say how we have experience being absolutely covered in mud, and then we have to go out for dinner afterwards, and we're not allowed to go and eat anywhere because we're so disgusting and we smell really bad. So what we do is we wear these amazing oilskins, and over here we've got Guy and we've got Chiho in their very, very attractive oilskins. And what we're going to show you is that the water completely runs off it, just like water off a duck's back. So Adrian enjoys this bit.
Okay.
But are you completely dry underneath, guys? Completely dry, so they're awesome.
One more go. Thank you.
So I think we're going to answer a few of your questions out here now.
Yeah, let's do some questions. What have we got?
First of all, we've got a message from Bishop School in Newquay, my hometown. Hello, everyone. And we've got to do a shout out to the Year 6 class who are watching today. So hello, Year 6 in Bishop School.
Hello.
We've had a question. This question comes up quite a lot, we find, Adrian. Yep. Has Rex ever been attacked by anything?
Well, we had one really exciting incident when we were working in the Bahamas. Now, I don't know how many of you know where that is, but the Bahamas is an island chain in the Caribbean. Absolutely amazing place because it has very deep water and lots of sharks. and I think it was actually only about the 5th dive. We've done 117 dives now with Rex. I think it was dive number, I can't remember, dive number 5, but it was fairly early on. And we came across a really large, I think it was a nurse shark. We weren't totally certain exact which species. And it came right up to Rex and swam up to us like it was going to grab us. But it didn't, fortunately. And that's about the closest encounter we've had. But other than that, no, we haven't been. Mostly Rex scares things away. Even though he's quite small, his thrusters and propellers going do create a bit of noise. What else have we got?
So we've got a question from the
Good
same
question.
school. So this is St Mary's Catholic School, Bodmin, asking these questions. So not just about being attacked by anything, but what is the largest animal we've seen in Plymouth waters? So what we can do is send you a video of this, or if you can get on Twitter in the school, they can show you as well. Yesterday we saw a shark. It's called a dogfish, and it's got a beautiful load of spots all over his back, and he looks a bit like a leopard print on his back, a bit more square leopard print, and that was very amazing. So what we'll do is we'll put that video up on our Rex channel, and then you can see it, and we'll email it to you so you can see it today.
We've been hoping to spot a basking shark as well. That would be one of the most exciting things. I mean, they are seen around this time of year in this part of the British coast, so that would obviously be probably the largest thing that we would ever find. These are these big filter feeding sharks that you get off the British Isles in the summer. So we haven't seen one. We have seen a sunfish one time. I think it was 3 years ago we saw a sunfish here, which is really exciting.
Yeah, they're really weird looking. If you Google them as a class, what you'll see is it looks like someone's chopped it in half. They don't look like they should be able to float.
Very strange animal.
Very strange. I saw one once, 2 meters big, so they're huge. So we'd love to see one of those. I think Rex might be a bit scared if he encountered a sunfish though.
Yeah, Rex goes anywhere.
Oh, Rex is brave. Rex is brave. Okay, so we need to do a shout out to people at the Teaching and Learning Institute. They've asked us to say hello. So hello to everyone watching there. And we've got a question from Helen, who's a governor at Treviglas College in Cornwall. And she says, what's the main reason for being on the research vessel in Plymouth at the moment?
Well, that's a really good question. So this is the 5th year that we've been coming down here, collaboratively working together with the University of Southampton and the Natural History Museum. And really, there's several reasons. We're working on collecting DNA, collecting samples of genetic material from all of UK biodiversity to take back to our collections. We've been putting experiments down here. Amber and I have been helping the crew this morning deploy some time-lapse camera experiments down here on the seafloor in Plymouth Sound, which collect long-term data, temporal data over many, many months, ideally over years or more. And we actually sent a tweet this morning. I think for some of you, if you go onto the ROV REX Twitter channel, you'll be able to see data I just downloaded this morning from our experimental camera system of the temperature over the last 2 years just here in Plymouth Sound. It's really fascinating because you see it go up and down in peaks. You see obviously the summer and winter, but you also see, and it's really amazing, you see the tide coming in and out. And of course tide moves water in and out, but it actually causes a temperature change at an individual point. So you can monitor tide, and you can see all kinds of interesting oceanographic patterns in the water there, which are really exciting. So we've got a whole range of projects we've been doing over 5 years now.
One thing that's particularly interesting, which is why we're here in Plymouth and we do this in UK waters as well, is there is a lot of protected species that can get damaged, and so we look and see, you know, how they're doing, how we can protect them. So there are these animals that you saw in the videos called pink sea fans, and they're also in your species guide. And basically, they make in their branches, all the animals live, and they make protected habitats for other species. So lots of baby fish will hide in the branches to hide from the big nasty fish trying to eat them. And lots of animals like anemones and crabs will put out their tentacles and mouth parts, and they will pick up particles in the water column and basically steal it from the corals. But we want to protect those corals so that we can keep this amazing habitat here. So we want to find out as much as we can about them, and Plymouth has got a lot of them. So final question is from more questions from Treviglas Community College. This is Jake B. And he was asking, are there any sharks in Cornwall? So I hope we answered a couple of those questions. I think around the UK coast, I might be a few figures out of this, but around the UK waters you can get 32 different species of sharks.
That's amazing. 32?
I think, yeah, it's below 30 somewhere. I think it's about 32. So there's lots of different species of sharks you can get in what we call the UK waters. But the basking sharks, you definitely don't need to be scared of them. So don't not go swimming because of them. They have basically no teeth. They're
Friendly
just a
sharks.
big mouth. All they could do was maybe gum you, and you know, like a gummy bear. They can't do anything. They just eat plankton.
Probably not that pleasant being gummed by a basking
Well, no,
shark.
I don't
Have you
think
ever
I'd
been
want
gummed by a basking shark?
No, I haven't, Adrian.
Okay,
So maybe
right.
I can't vouch for that. But
So we should probably health and safety warning: don't attempt to be gummed by a basking shark.
I'd rather be gummed by a basking shark than be bitten by a tiger shark.
Exactly.
So, you know.
We do get my colleague Nick Higgs, who's here from the Plymouth Marine Institute, did film an amazing sequence of blue sharks consuming the remains of a dead whale at the seafloor. It was on ITV just over the Easter period. It may still be on that channel. It's called Britain's Sharks. So we've been working collaboratively, sometimes with television companies, helping them. And they got some stunning footage of blue sharks attacking with a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV, just like Rex. Actually, it wasn't Rex. We weren't involved, but using exactly the same mode of filming. So I think, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. But I think now you've had a little introduction to getting the mud samples. Imagine we brought up some mud samples, and now one of the most exciting parts of the whole operation is getting those samples from the sieve tables into the wet lab. And I'm going to take you in there now. So this is the lab. We walked through it earlier. Really great place, and we can see what's happening in here. And just think, imagine we sieved those samples, we brought little tiny animals from the seafloor in, and oh my goodness, what have we got here? This is, let's introduce Helena. Helena, would you like to say hello?
Hello.
Yes. So Helena here is also from the Natural History Museum and has something incredible under the microscope. Do you want to explain a little bit what you're looking at? This is a microscope with a camera attached. We're able to look at tiny animals. So Helena, what have we got here? This looks incredible.
Yeah, so what we have here is a worm that lives in the seafloor, and it's tiny. You can see it there with my finger as a scale. It's really, really tiny, but then we need to magnify it in the microscope, and then we can look at it on the screen and take photos of it. So we can look at it later and identify it. And this worm, even though it doesn't look like it, they are actually related to earthworms that you can find in your garden, but these ones looks a bit more spectacular. Some are really colorful. And this is a philodocid, it's called. I don't know what species it is yet because I have to look closer at it, but it's really, really beautiful. And I think Amber think it looks like a Chinese dragon. We can zoom in on the head.
Zoom in on the head.
Yes. Oops.
I think these are sometimes called paddle worms, is that right?
Yeah.
Because they have little swimming paddles.
Yeah. And they have
Wow.
big, beautiful
Amazing.
eyes. Yeah. They're really
Look at those
cute.
eyes.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite worms actually. They're pretty.
So he or she, this little worm, is still alive, is that right, Helena?
Yeah, it's still alive. I have kind of calmed it down because normally it zooms around in the petri dish and I can't see anything at it. But so I have calmed it down. But if I put it back into seawater again, it will be fine and zoom around again really quickly. So.
We've just had another question come in from Treviglas on our YouTube channel, and this is from Ruby, and she wants to know, why are there so many different shapes of coral when they all basically eat the same thing? And I think that's a really interesting question. So basically you get coral happening and occurring all over the world, and when they occur in the same place, because they're very similar species, they have a lot of competition, and so that they avoid and they can outcompete each other for certain different types of food. And for example, they live at different depths, so some of them have to branch out a lot more if they are found deeper, because they have to try and pick up more light. You know, like a leaf will come out from a tree and they're flat, so they pick up lots of light. So that's why the corals, because they have tiny little algae that live in them that do photosynthesis, where they turn the sunlight into energy. So they're all sorts of different shapes depending on how deep they are, how many particles in the water. They do eat slightly different sizes of particles, so some have got bigger polyps, some will have smaller polyps. And a lot of the corals that you get in the deeper seas will lose their colour because they don't need to have lots of colour because it's so dark down there, and they're not necessarily using, photosynthesis. So there's all sorts of different reasons, but it's to avoid competition with each other and to exist at kind of different extreme environments. So I thought that was a really interesting question.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep question, really, because it comes down to the very fundamental nature of evolution. Evolution, how animals have adapted and radiated into different habitats, and the marine realm is not just a surface of blue similarness everywhere. It's incredibly diverse down there. There's gullies and canyons and rocks and boulders and mud, and all these animals have evolved strategies to deal with these different environments. And of course, under the water there's weather as well. We don't really call it weather as oceanographers, but it's ocean currents, and there's temperature, and there's storms, and there's eddies, and there's changes in conditions all the time. And these encourage not just diversity of animal life, but diversity of a number of different forms that animal life can take. So that's really, really, really good question. How are we doing? Are we going to go back outside? Or
I think
good.
now
More
we're
questions?
just going to go and look at your experiments that you've got at the moment.
Let's do that. Yeah,
so
absolutely
if we
fantastic.
lead out here. So what we do as scientists is we are all we become experts in different areas because the seas are so massive and take up such a big area of our planet that we all have to specialise in something because we can't know everything. They're huge. It's very different to being on land where you can see everything. So what Adrian's going to do is just show you kind of what he's an expert in and the research he does mostly. So I'll hand over to you, Adrian. Oh my God, what's that there?
Thanks, Amber. So one of the things that we've been studying, as Amber said, I'm a marine biologist and I've been working for many years doing all kinds of experiments around the world in all kinds of depths. Here we're working at depths of 30 to 50 metres, but we actually also do really deep sea experiments. We go to sea on large oceanographic boats and do experiments in very deep water. And in the deep ocean, one of the things that's really unknown and a bit of a mystery is how animals get their food. And in particular, how they deal with large pulses, large amounts of food on the seafloor when it does arrive. So we've been doing a series of experiments, and one of those experiments is actually putting down pieces of wood onto the seabed, just like this one. I don't know if we can see this as I bring this out of the... So this is a piece of wood which has been on the seafloor for exactly 1 year actually, and you can probably see that it's quite decomposed. There's bryozoan, these are like animal colonies growing all over it, and actually the wood is really soft, and it's actually been consumed by wood-eating worms. And a few years ago we started some experiments to put down these sorts of things in a whole range of different habitats. Here's a piece, I think. Oh yes, oh my goodness me, this is actually, I hadn't actually checked this for a while, but it's completely covered. I don't know whether you can see all these little specks, these little crustaceans which are actually boring into and consuming the wood. Gribbles they're called. This is...
What did you say they were called?
They're called gribbles. I think that's the right word for them. I can't remember the Latin name. Actually, I hadn't realised just how many there were on this. That's really, really cool. That's quite exciting actually. We should probably sample this. Yeah. Well,
we're going to be working hard later, aren't we?
So that's just one of the many projects that we've been involved with over the years, trying to find new species. And a few years ago, I found probably what was the most exciting sort of scientific discovery of my career so far, which is that we found these things called ossidax, bone-eating worms. And we've actually, at this time, at the end of this, I don't know, we can see how we're doing for time. I'll take you back into the lab and show you a whalebone that we brought up from the seafloor. And we're actually studying what consumes whales on the seafloor as well after they die. I mentioned earlier about that shark attack documentary, but some of the most exciting and unusual things happen when these large amounts of food fall to the seafloor and get consumed, and then you get bones on, essentially exposed. And in particular, we found this animal called ossidax, Latin for bone eating, a really remarkable thing because it was an entirely new group of animals that no one had ever found before, living on these weird environments. I often say to people that if you want to find something new and interesting, you have to look somewhere a bit odd and unusual. And so whale bones on the seafloor is a really good example of that.
I have to agree, that is very odd. So I hope that Charlie in year 8 at Treviglas, I hope that answered your question as to whether we've discovered any new species. I mean, we've discovered lots of other new species as a research group, but I think that's probably the most exciting one from Adrian there, and bone-eating zombie worms and things.
That's
so,
right, yeah. They got nicknamed the zombie worm in the popular press. And we now have about 25 different species of those that we found since they were first discovered in 2005.
So we'll just answer a few more of your questions that have been coming through. You're sending loads through, so thank you very much, guys. I think this one is, where's this one from? This is from Treviglas again. It's from Josh B. And he says, oh, this is another very fundamental question. Why is the sea blue? So I hope we answered a little bit about the light in the water earlier on when we were talking about Rex's video and why the red light disappears when you get deeper, because you have light travels in waves up and down like this. You can't see it, but that's how they travel. And red light travels in very big waves, and so they disappear and all their energy is lost very quickly when it goes into the water. So that's why when you go deeper it goes very, very blue. So we hope that answered your question earlier, Josh. So from Mr. Davies' class at Rosemelon School, Harley would like to know, what colour are conger eels? So earlier on you saw the conger eel, and he was kind of a grey-blue colour, but you have all sorts of different species, and a very closely related species are the moray eels, and they have this amazing spotty colours in all different colours, from yellow and blue. So all I can say is Google conger eels and Google moray eels, and you'll see that they come in so many different shapes and sizes and colours, and they're very beautiful. We've got Morgan at Plymouth School of Creative Arts, who'd like to know how to become a marine biologist. So I was probably about 6 years old when I decided I wanted to do marine biology, and I was watching, as a lot of people were, the David Attenborough programmes and the Blue Planet, and I just decided that that's what I wanted to do. So I got lots of experience looking around the rock pools that I know all of you are near, because you're Cornwall and Devon. So get out, look at all the rock pools, make sure you know lots of stuff. Work hard at school, but you do have to work hard at school, get good grades.
Not too many video games.
Not too many video games,
Just
only
enough,
a couple.
enough to be an ROV pilot.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to drive ROVs, play them sometimes, but not enough to mean you can't be a marine biologist. And then you just go to a university and you study to be a marine biologist. You can do marine biology or you can do biology. And then you've just got to go out and you've got to meet lots of people, and you have to just go and have a look around the coast, watch interesting programmes about it, make sure you know exactly what you're interested in, and then go and tell someone about it and go and study really hard. So I hope if Morgan, if you want to be a marine biologist, you be a marine biologist, because you can. So we've had another question from the School of Creation. Have you ever seen the old dolphin that lives near the Crimmel Ferry?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Two years ago, but I think he might have died.
Oh no!
I heard, I think someone told me that, I don't know, but we did see a dolphin. We used to just swim up and down here, right next to the boat. But I think he may have died.
Oh, well, hopefully it had a little baby,
Yes.
and maybe
But
there'll
it
be a
was
new
old,
dolphin.
so there'll be a new one to
He
replace
was
him.
very old.
Yeah.
I've heard he's been
Yeah.
around for a long time. And finally from Helen, how deep can you scuba dive? I mean, what is the deepest?
That's a good question. Well, that's one for we have a scuba diver on board. But one of the things about scuba diving is, of course, you're limited by how much air you have in your tank, and you're also to some degree limited by some of the problems you get in your body if you have too much nitrogen. This is one of the chemicals in air that builds up in your body if you dive for a very long time. And actually we're joined, this is quite nice, because we're joined by my colleague Cris Little, who's a scuba diver and a paleontologist and a marine biologist, really. So Cris is visiting us for the University of Leeds, and as a scuba diver, we had a question about scuba diving, Cris, and I'm wondering, what do you think is the main differences between using ROV like REX and going scuba diving?
Well, as you said just now, Adrian, it's very much limited, scuba diving, to what you can carry on your back in terms of a tank. And the thing is, REX doesn't breathe air, so REX can go down for a very long time, as long as you want, because the power goes down the cable, and therefore REX can stay down as long as you can stay awake. Scuba divers are constrained by the amount of air which is in their tanks, and they're also constrained how deep you can go as well. So that question about how deep scuba divers can go is that usually about 50 or 60 meters is about as deep as you can go on air. Beyond that, you can be in big trouble. So REX can go deeper for longer. That's why REX is better.
Yeah.
Rex is a bit of a hero then, really, so he's getting us data that we wouldn't be able to get if he didn't exist, so we all love Rex.
But one thing that REX doesn't have is hands, and we have a little manipulator arm, but one of the most important functions that we try to build into remotely operated vehicles is some kind of function that allows to do movements like hands. And if you work with the really deep sea diving ROVs, some of the ones, for example, we use in the oil industry, or by us scientists, we have one at the University of Southampton. It's a 6,500 metre rated thing. It's the size of a car, and that has arms on the front that have some of the functions of hands and can do some of that work, but not entirely replace them. So there is still a role for scuba divers in lots of these situations where you need arms to be able to do things.
Cool, so I think that's all the questions that we've had, and I think we're running out of time. So if you have any more questions, just send them over to us. We'll try and email you over the next couple of days. Just let us know and we'll answer them. We'll send you over a couple of clips about the things that we've spoken about today but haven't been able to show you pictures of because of time, such as the dogfish, and maybe we can send you a little bit of a longer clip of the conger eel as well.
Perhaps some of the students could try and find shark footage, which is on the YouTube channel. And we've got some other really nice things on there. We've got, for example, the brittle star beds,
They are
absolutely dramatic
amazing.
one.
They're all dancing around on the bottom.
Dancing sea stars. So there's some fun things on there that you can go through and try and identify, and feel free to get in touch with us via Twitter or the YouTube channel, and we will do our best to answer your questions.
And with the species guides you've got, if you haven't managed to play the game yet, go and find dive number 88 on the ROV REX channel, and you'll find all those species in there, and see who's the best at identifying the species in your class, because you get points for the most rare ones you find. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been great. We hope you've learnt lots, and we have absolutely loved your questions. It's almost given us questions that we weren't sure we could answer, but we did know them in the end. So goodbye from me, and we hope that you'll join us for Deep Discovery 2016.
Yeah, thank you very much. Goodbye from me.
Bye everyone. Cheers.
Bye bye.